And one of the things and themes that I'm seeing is people are struggling with really figuring out how to lead the new generations. At the end of the day, 75% of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Zs by next year. And it's funny that we still see people rolling their eyes when they hear the word millennial. Like even in coach training environments, when I'm training groups of hundreds of leaders, they're going, oh, millennials. And I kind of chuckle because I'm thinking, you're actually being taught by a millennial to be a better leader. I'm a millennial myself, and I think that's actually quite funny.
All right, welcome back, folks, to the Coachful Coaching Leadership Podcast. This is David, and I am here with Brianne Ligori. Brianne is, you were on here a little while ago, one of my early shows last year, and welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah. So what have you been up to since we last chatted?
Oh my gosh, so much has happened in the last year and a half since we kind of connected. I've been traveling the world.
Yes.
It's been amazing.
You were in Austria, was it?
We were in Austria in June. We just got back from Amsterdam last week.
Yeah.
We've spent some time in Germany, some time in the US. And so just having an absolute blast working with leaders across the world. And just, it's so cool to see the different cultures and how everybody comes together. It's really been such a beautiful experience.
Well, excellent. We talk more about that, but maybe you can give people a 20-second of who you are for the folks who don't know you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm Brianne Ligori. I'm a master certified coach as well as a team transformation certified coach. And I actually work with organizations across the globe to support them to create stronger leaders. And a big part of that is coaching and helping creating coaching cultures within organizations. We also do an ICF accredited coach certification training program that we just absolutely love and have such a blast with. But, I didn't start there. I was in corporate for 15 years and I loved every minute of it. I learned so much through that experience. And then, of course, I learned that my passion was really in learning and development and developing others and leaders specifically, and sort of got pulled into that kind of work little by little naturally. And now I do that work full time.
So, Brianne, right before we started, a couple of things I want to say to you. So first of all, thank you very much for having me on your podcast a couple of months ago. And so that was wonderful to give some perspective there. It's always interesting being on the other side of the table and providing the advice to folks. So thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. It was such a great conversation. So much engagement on LinkedIn after we had those interviews with you dropping, and very sage advice from a seasoned expert like yourself. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Brianne. So it sounds like two things are on your mind today: side-by-side leadership and the busyness culture.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you want to start? Both are doozies.
They're both doozies. When you ask me the question, what's on your mind? It's sort of like, what am I seeing lately? I do a lot of one-on-one executive coaching, and then of course leadership development on a more broader scale. And one of the things and themes that I'm seeing is people are struggling with really figuring out how to lead the new generations. At the end of the day, 75% of the workforce will be millennials and Gen Zs by next year. Mm-hmm. And it's funny that we still see people rolling their eyes when they hear the word millennial. Like even in coach training environments, when I'm training groups of hundreds of leaders, they're going, oh, millennials. And I kind of chuckle because I'm thinking, you're actually being taught by a millennial to be a better leader. I'm a millennial myself, and I think that's actually quite funny.
Don't you find these labels interesting? Don't you find these labels very interesting? And immediately their mind goes to, well, someone's entitled. Right?
Someone's entitled, someone's lazy, someone has no work ethic.
Yeah, someone needs mommy and daddy to, give them everything. It's amazing the labels that come up pretty fast.
Yeah, and putting people in particular boxes. Yeah. And I think it's a real struggle right now on both ends. If we look at like the boomers sort of starting to exit, and as well as the Gen X's who have essentially been trained to lead in a hierarchical way by the boomers. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's all they knew at the time. But as we sort of have these new generations coming in, and actually millennials taking leadership and Gen Zs being a big part of that individual contributor population, we need to shift our leadership. And so when I say side-by-side leadership, what I mean is taking us down from this hierarchical approach that we've had for so many years and bringing it down to a side by side
Mm-hmm.
leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so, what I mean by that is that we are leading in a human to human way. So, we may hold different positions. That's okay. But it's really stepping down from this positional power and ego and saying, how can I help you as a human being to be better at what you do? How can I understand what matters to you, your values? How can I help connect the work that you're doing to those values so you're actually having more joy in the day to day? I
Mm-hmm.
mean, at the end of the day, that's what we're here for. We're not here to be robots. And that essentially, I feel like is what's been happening for many years is people every single Sunday night are going, oh God, I don't want to go to work, right? Or they're counting down till retirement. And I really don't believe that is the way things need to be. And I believe that needs to change because otherwise we're headed towards a workforce crisis because the Gen Zs, they're simply not going to stand for it. They're going to go start a YouTube channel, start a TikTok channel, and make more than we're making in corporate.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad there's better consciousness around here. I'm a Gen X. If you want to label me, whatever I don't even know what that label means, honestly.
Right?
You know, you know. But whatever the case, whatever the label is, it's I. What I find is that when you, okay, so let's just say you believe in hierarchical, do as I say, not as I do. But how much more influence and how much better can you get folks to actually get things done and want to get things done? Want to get things done if you identify with them in some way. So you said something about values. If I know your values, Brianne, and let's just say it's fairness, you believe fairness is very important. If I can help you understand why something is not fair that we're asking to do, I'm asking you to do something right now. And if I align it to fairness and show you how it's unfair right now, and this is why we need to do this fast so that we can be more fair, how much more likely are you going to do that thing, whatever it is?
Yes. Yes. It's like the values are the spark of motivation.
Yeah.
100%, because that is the root of who we are.
It's
And
the
so if we
core
can,
of who we are.
yes,
Yes.
yes. And so if we can tap into that with people, the what gets done so much more effectively. But first, we need to step into the who. And people are very uncomfortable with this. A lot of leaders we work with are like, I don't even know where to begin with. And I understand that because for so many years we had, a work Brianne and a home Brianne, and they were separate
Mm-hmm.
versus looking at, I'm actually one human being. And if you treat me as such, you're going to get so much more productivity out of me and so much more engagement around the work that I'm doing.
Yeah. Okay. So where do you think if you were to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, from what you've seen, obviously what you've seen, where are we on this side by side leadership evolution? 10
Mm,
being awesome, 1 being we suck.
yeah. Realistically speaking, I think we're probably at about a 4 or 5. I actually think during COVID, I think we moved up the scale to probably about a 6 because people needed to shift because the humanness was coming out from every angle as we had kids coming in and real
Mm-hmm.
stuff happening. But what I'm seeing now and seeing it, in the media and in LinkedIn is that people are actually reverting by saying, hey, we're going to go backwards and we're going to force everybody back into the office and we're going to force that positional power that I'm going to tell you what to do. And really, it's too bad if you don't like it. So I'm seeing a bit of, sliding back on that scale. And I'm honestly getting a bit nervous if we continue to head in this direction that we're actually going very backwards.
It's unfortunately, and the first time we talked about this, I didn't have a strong position. I have a much stronger position on that right now. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that we are going backwards, especially in the technology industry, where you create software that actually enables people to work more remotely. There's an irony there, if anything, if if I was looking from the outside. But you know what disturbs me about that movement right now is that there's no really good reason, and the reason that are given for bringing people back in the office are pretty weak at best, and it's absolutely not evidence based. If anything, if we were looking for true evidence, I think we could find much to the contrary, right? About like how it improves collaboration. It does not, and this is a belief and not based on evidence. I believe it's the wellness of the individuals actually deteriorates, of family units actually deteriorate, the economic and financial situation individuals deteriorate when you force people back into a little cubbyhole
Yeah.
just because you want to see them all there. Anyways, that's my stronger position on it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I will
Yeah.
return if I need to return.
Well, and that's the thing, but you touched on something here. When we ask people why they are forcing this, they say it's because I like my people there. I want to see people together, right? Like
Yeah.
there is no rooted research in that. But if we look at the impact on people, so could be catastrophic for people because they've now set themselves in a new way of working where they are more aligned with their values. They're spending more time with their family. And if we're now taking that away of something that's now became sort of almost status quo for people, we are going to lose people. We're putting more pressure on women in the workplace, frankly, because they have to now add that hour commute on either side and deal with all of the extra stuff that women deal with in a day-to-day basis. And I'm seeing this huge in a lot of the women executives that I coach. People are struggling. We wonder why people say they're busy. It's a big part of this, and we're creating this culture of our value is based on how many things you check off your to-do list every day rather than who you are and what your values are as a human being.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, there's a negative reward system, or not negative or positive. That's not right. It's just a reward system that
Mm.
values checking all those things and getting all those things done. It's unfortunate that that's happening. I guess how's this relate? I think we're flowing into this busyness culture that you're talking about. What are you seeing there?
Well, I mean, I'm coaching people on a regular basis, and when you start those conversations, it's always a how are you? The answer, I would say probably 75 to 80% of the time is I'm busy. How much are you seeing that in the world? Like every time you ask someone how they are, I'm busy.
Depends on the individual, I guess. There's I hear that a lot. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
It is almost the default answer. And then one layer, peel it back. There is the reality that things are busy, but the perception of what they need to do to keep busy. Like so and so said, I need to do X. So they peanut butter that thing across everything they need to do. Is like, I need to do it for everything. It's like, no, no, no. I think they really meant focus on the important things, not
Yeah.
to do it on every single thing. Like you don't need to set up a spreadsheet to project manage every single little project. Like some of them is just you can get it done pretty quickly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
exercising common sense, I find is a problem, and I don't know. That's sort of what I see across people I coach as well. It's what's common for me, common sense for me and you, looking from the outside, might not be for them, and they're stuck in this hamster wheel and they can't
Yeah.
see through it, right? But that's why you need coaching, I guess.
Absolutely. And I think of that hamster wheel of sort of like, I call it like the doing energy, right? Like, checking things off and getting things done and go, 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 go. And we get a lot of reinforcement from that in the workplace when we look at our performance appraisal processes is all about these checks and
Yes.
balances and check
Yes. It's like,
boxes.
yes, you checked everything, and it's like, good work, Brianne. And because of that, I'm going to give you positive reinforcement for a bad behavior, in my opinion.
Yes.
And the person feeds off that, right? They
Mhm.
feed off that positive reinforcement for a negative behavior.
It is absolutely true. And I realized that early in my leadership journey when I was first leading teams many years ago, is that I was actually reinforcing people for doing all this extra work that they really didn't need to do and putting together these fancy presentations that, really essentially were taking them away of the core of their work. And I was like, yes, good job. And I was giving them those internal awards that we
Mm-hmm.
give in corporations for it. And quickly I realized that I was actually reinforcing this busyness habit for my team, that they needed to do all these things that actually really didn't matter all that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I guess what is the alternative to that, to leaders who are listening? Instead of reinforcing busy work, or what you might interpret as busy work, what should they do instead?
Yes, this is the question. And I think this goes back to our point about side by side leadership, because I think hierarchy and direction reinforces the to do list. And here's all the things you need to get done. I think shifting out of that and focusing on the human being, sitting down side by side, understanding how are they? What's on their mind? Like it's taking them to a place of coaching and just really spending time with that person as a human and actually valuing that time of discovery as equally as important as getting stuff done. Because when we balance those things, I call it doing energy and being energy,
Mm-hmm.
we are so much more effective when we're in the doing energy space.
Yeah. Now, the follow up question to that is, what if you're a leader and you're in a culture, in an organization with a culture of, do, do?
Mhm.
How do you change the culture from your level down? Like, you might not be able to change it up, right? That's very hard, and I acknowledge that. How do you change it from where you are down to your people?
Yeah. Yeah. This is a really real thing that a lot of us, struggle with when we're working in organizations. And I think the first piece is to do the self work. As a leader, who am I as a leader? How do I want to lead? What experience do I want to create for people? How do I want people to remember me? What do I want to be known for? Spending time really defining that as a foundation, because you can't get there with other people on your team until you get there yourself. And so once you spend time in that space of that being energy and discovering, what really matters to you, then you're able to lead other people down that path, because you're never going to rise higher than the leader in a team, right? And if the leader is leading from a really low place of consciousness and fear-based leadership, nobody in the team is ever going to rise above that. So rising above as a leader and leading with your energy and what you're here to bring, and naturally people are going to follow that.
Yeah. And I guess, and I'm going to admit something. I used to think, doing this inner work was, woo woo, frou frou type of stuff. And that's the immature. I still am immature, but more mature. But it was a less informed version of myself, where you thought, oh, that's just for spiritual individuals who are in the woo woo, which is absolutely not true. I guess, in your travels, what do you say to those doubtful individuals who say, I don't need to do any of this inner work? I know myself. And you know what? My leadership style, it gets things done, Brianne. What would you say to
Mhm.
that person?
We hear this all the time. People really struggle from detaching from the old ways of doing things. And what I would say here is we're not going to win them all. If we can start with a small group of people and start building from there in terms of the people that are ready for this type of more mature leadership, this more evolved leadership, people are going to see that those people are getting results and they're going to want to know why. And from there, we're going to continue to expand our group of evolved leaders. But if you have someone that's way out here and not ready for it, you can't change someone that's not ready to have these conversations. And they're going to actually see that in terms of their results. They're not going to be as successful as the leaders that are more evolved and helping people connect with who they are. They're going to start feeling that and knowing that. And at the end of the day, they might not end up being successful getting that next promotion or potential. If
Yeah.
you're in a less evolved company, those people might be rewarded for that old school leadership. And at the end of the day, what I'd really challenge people to consider is that the right organization for you if you're feeling that you're not aligned with that type of leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. So, slightly switching topics, but not really. You've traveled a bit recently. We were just talking about it at the beginning. Anything you learned that you didn't expect in those travels?
That's such a good question. I mean, yes. I mean, I think what I did, one of the big things is in North America, we're pretty stiff in terms of like the way we approach leadership, and everything is so serious. We need to get stuff done, and we're really in this space where when we're working with people from Europe, we're noticing something different. We're noticing a more sense of this more evolved leadership. We're getting people up and dancing and being silly and having fun and being human. It's a real big lesson for me that I need to spend more time in that place of fun and enjoyment. And life isn't just about work. Right. And so that was probably the biggest learning for me, is that the culture is actually quite different, and each have their benefits, no doubt about it, but I need to have more fun.
You don't have enough fun?
I think I have enough fun. I think, I spend so much of my day like back to back, right? I mean, I teach this stuff, but I also need to learn from the work that I'm teaching in building in those elements of space. So that's definitely a
Mm-hmm.
work in progress for me. And more elements of fun. So I don't feel like I'm just grinding it out each day. I'm like, what is something fun that I can bring to every single meeting
Mm-hmm.
that I'm leading, or every single training that I'm leading? And so I have that sort of on my mind. I actually have a note here. I'm calling it like, what is my energetic signature that I want to bring to each interaction with people?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
reminding myself of that before those interactions, like, I'm not just there to say, okay, how are you? Yeah, I'm busy. Okay, let's get stuff done. It's, what experience do I want to create for that person so that that person can also evolve in their leadership?
Yeah. That's fun. There is a fun, it's fun when you're actually trying to include fun. There's something about it. Early on in my leadership, one of my early roles was with at the, I mean, this is a number of years ago. So at the time, there were younger millennials at the time in their 20s. And I knew right away there was an expectation like things are going to be upbeat. This is one of their early jobs. And I was considered the old guy on the team. And I'm not trying to be them. And no way was I trying to do that. But it was very much, okay, what's something, one thing I could do every gathering where it's about you, it's about us, you know, something fun, something
Hmm.
fun. And then we'll dive into the business. Don't worry about it. We'll get there for sure. Right.
Hmm.
That won't go away. But
Yep.
what's something fun? And it's interesting. Now I lead people who are more, I mean, a lot of them are older than me, right? Some are boomers, the tail end of the boomers, some are Gen X, whatever you want to call the label. But you know, for them, it's just some folks just really love the work. So it's a very interesting dynamic. For them, fun is like, let me dig into some of this code. So I struggle a little more with some of the fun right now. But
Hmm.
there's one thing that resonates with everyone is, tell me something that you did that was fun, that is not work related. It's
Yes.
interesting. Everyone has, I'll tell you a really important story, because I shared like, oh, this is how I'm spending time with family on the cooler nights now in the fall. And one individual posted a photo of himself, and he goes, hey, I love all these photos, you and your kids playing hockey and everything. He posted a picture of him on his driveway and just looking out, sitting in his chair. And he goes, I'm an empty nester. And seeing all these
Mm.
photos brings back great memories. And it's actually kind of, I feel a little bit sad that I don't have all the noise and all the hockey games anymore. And he said, folks, just enjoy it while you have it, because it will go away fast. And this guy is such a great guy too, by the way. And so the perspective, right? Like
Perspective is everything.
the craziness we go through, we're like, oh no. He's like, when it's quiet, it's pretty damn
Hmm.
boring.
Yes, right? I wish I
Pretty
was
damn
back
boring.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely. And tapping into that, some of that advice and wisdom when we have a challenge, to say, so what are all the different perspectives and different ways we could look at this challenge? Like, what is the perspective from maybe the wise elder or a mentor, or maybe like some of those, younger generations that like the fun, like, and playing with that and knowing that there's no exact right answer,
Hmm.
but it's about finding the combination of all of that that feels right for us and for each
Yeah.
individual.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's actually, I mean, through coaching, that's something, when I took on this new role like 4 years ago, a coach that we both know, right, basically asked me that, like, well, what value does that very senior person bring
Yeah.
versus someone, like your age, and versus someone who is younger? What's the value that each of them could bring to the table? And it made me think about the relationship I have with my team very differently. And the senior folks was definitely like, been there, done it, seen it. I have the bumper stickers. I
Hmm.
tapped into that. Like, hey, you've probably seen this. What's your take on this? And it's very interesting. They're
Yes.
just so relaxed. It's like, it'll blow over. Don't worry about it.
It's all good. Been there a million times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't worry. It'll blow over. It's like, oh no, that guy won't be here long. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
Like
Yes.
just things like that. So tapping into that energy and that wisdom is amazing. But yeah, I guess, like side by side leadership. That's more of a what we need to teach, right?
I believe so.
And so on my mind recently too is that and but also what's your take on just the overall mental health of our society right now? Like we talk about business culture, we talk
Mm.
about side by side leadership.
Mhm.
What would you say is the mental health of our society right now? And well, I'll leave that. I'll throw that
Mhm.
over to you.
Yeah, well, it's a good topic, especially as Mental Health Awareness Month and Mental
Mm-hmm.
Health Awareness Day yesterday. I think it was yesterday. It's been on my mind because as I look at different data, like I see actually from a recent study from Benefits Canada that 75% of workers are feeling stressed based on the workload and the high expectations that are placed on them. So I think these all go hand in hand in terms of mental health and the workplace.
Yeah.
It's a really important piece that we need to look at if we want to improve overall mental health. Overall, improving mental health doesn't mean, oh, I have a 1-800 number that you can call and get EAP and talk
Mm-hmm.
to somebody. That's important too, but it's also about really changing the fabric of our organizations to put the human being first.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't see that the case. So I see all of these things interconnected. And if we do shift to more of a side by side, I care about you as a human being first, and then actually, I know the work is going to actually get done and get done better because I'm putting you and what matters to you first. I think we will make an impact on those stats and those numbers in terms of how many people are feeling overwhelmed and stressed.
Yeah. There's one good leader I was talking to the other day, and what this person said was awesome. Like someone put up a picture of their family before they presented. And
Mm-hmm.
this leader stopped that individual and said, "Just stop right there. This is what it's about. And if you can get that right, you will be able to get this right. If you have problems there and you're not doing things right there, it's going to affect how you treat everyone else over here
Mm-hmm.
in the organization. Are you
Mm-hmm.
working your family unit, and how does that impact everything else and how you show up for your people?"
That's exactly it. And the work impacts the outside. So it's sort of like this infinity loop where one impacts the other. And if we don't have good things going at home, it impacts the work. But if we have a toxic workplace, and there's a lot of data to say that people's managers really impacts their experience at work. If their manager isn't a strong leader that really advocates for them, then outside becomes affected by it as well.
So, Brianne, a couple more questions for you. First question is, so I asked you this last time, but have you changed your answer to, if you had to give advice to your previous self, what would you tell her today?
Yes. Yes. I think what's coming to me in the moment is actually around being in the moment. Don't always be so worried about the next thing. I think there needs to be an element of trust that what is meant for you will naturally unfold one step at a time. And so I think for me, I get so hung up sometimes on I need to hit all these milestones along the way and do all these things, and I forget what's happening in front of me. Like the beauty of being in Amsterdam last week with the amazing group of leaders, the
Yeah.
opportunity to be here with you. If I am letting my to do list and everything else I need to do run me, then I'm not enjoying the beauty of being here in this exchange. So that is my advice to my younger self and often to my kids is just be in the here and now, appreciate that, and trust that the here and now will lead to the next steps that need to
Yeah. Wonderful. So, last question I want to ask you is, what's one question I haven't asked you yet?
That's such a good question. That is one question. God, you got to tell me this ahead of time, David, because now I'm
I,
like,
I'm doing it on purpose.
oh, I guess the question is, what's most important to you?
What's most important to you right now?
My gosh, I think finding flow between all of the things that I'm doing and ensuring that I'm getting that balance with interjecting the fun, interjecting moments of family throughout the day, right? Like it doesn't need to be this separate thing where I'm like here 9 to 5 and then I go out and I interact with my family. Like, so what if my husband comes in during a meeting? Like, have those interactions, have those moments of realness, of humanity, of it is okay if our life is messy and all integrated and weaved together and not in these little silos, because when we're all integrated together, there's so much more beauty that comes from that.
Brianne, like every time I've talked to you, I learn something. And one of the things I really appreciate about you is that you're very honest, right? You're very aware and you're very honest of like what you do and the impact you have on others and on yourself. And it's it's little data points like that I get like from you as an example, where it makes me think about myself as well, right? Like for me, I don't overthink very often, but when I do, I overthink. Like it's like the Dos Equis commercial, right? He's like, I don't do it often, but when I do,
Yeah,
it
it
happens.
happens.
Um, and it's a reminder, and it's the work you got to just it's practice. It's a practice you got to have to just to be aware of these things. Like if
Hmm.
and someone said to me like, "Hey, Dave, when you're just working, when you flow, and you're effective. It's when you start thinking about all these other things, you question yourself and you're not as effective. Like what helps me be effective is just work the problem, work the problem.
Work the
Um,
problem, be in the moment. The
yeah.
self development is never done. Like, I might teach this stuff, but I'm doing it too. I need to have my sticky notes, reminders of
Hmm.
how I want to show up, and, okay, you need to take a break and all. We all need this, and we all need to support each other with really living into taking best care of ourselves so we can be great at what we do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's connecting with folks like yourself. Just human, just authentic and literally human,
Human.
being just comfortable with saying, actually, yeah, I'm still a work in progress too, and being comfortable saying that. It's I'm glad I'm surrounding myself with folks like yourself. So that's what I
Likewise,
want to say.
David.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. I'm really grateful to spend time with you and just have these real conversations. Like, none of this was planned. It was just like, let's let it flow and see what happens. And I think there's so much beauty in that, is what I'm learning over the years.
This is yeah, and this is I said it to someone recently. This is a form of artistic expression for me. It's
Hmm.
where there's two friends in a coffee shop having a chat. Where does it
Yes.
go is where it goes. Now, if we need to cut some things out, we'll do that after. Okay. So, all right.
Sounds great.
All right, Brianne, I'm going to stop
All
the
right.
recording now, but thank you very much
Sounds
again.
good. Thanks, David.